podcast, Playing the Field Zone 007. Today I'm joined by QB Stud. What's up, buddy?
Hey man, how's it going? Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. We're back. We're ready to knock out a podcast here. We got a lot to talk about, some interesting developments with the playoff race, things of that nature. Let's go ahead and get to it. Right now, as it stands, we're kind of all over the place with Daddy League, so I'm not sure how accurate this is going to be. But obviously, the first seed, 1 and 2 in the AFC, are the Colts and the Patriots, and then the Redskins and the Bears in the NFC. The AFC side of it, it kind of is a close race right now. The Ravens are 10 and 4, the Steelers are 10 and 4. So one of those teams could be 3, one of them could be the wild card. That could be anyone's game there still. The AFC West is all but won by the Broncos. And then there's an interesting bit of a potential shakeup when you look at the Jets at 9 and 5, the Bills at 9 and 5, the Texans 8 and 6, and the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8 and 6. So if the Jets drop a game, the Jets and the Bills, things get very interesting for these last 2 weeks in the SML for the 6th seed. What are your thoughts on that?
So the first thing I would want to look at is tiebreakers, because like you said, there's a lot of records that are really close.
Yeah.
The Ravens hold the tiebreaker over the Broncos and the Steelers. The Texans hold the tiebreaker over the Bills. I'm not sure how you did against the Jets.
I lost by 2 points.
Okay, so that's where that stands. And then the Jaguars hold the tiebreaker over the Bills, and I'm not sure how they did against the Jets either. The Jets have the tiebreaker over the Bills because of division record.
Right.
And currently the Texans and the Jaguars are tied at division record. So that would probably go to AFC conference record, which I'm not going to look at right now. But what's hurting the Jets right now is they don't have Kyler.
Yeah.
They play the Patriots next week.
Right.
And then I think they get Kyler back for Week 17 against Future. But regardless, even if you had Kyler for both of those games, that's really tough.
That's a tough last 2 games of the season. He's got to play the Patriots and you with the best offense in terms of points, and then taking on Future, who is always kind of a perennial playoff team. So I'm not sure what's going to happen these last 2 weeks with the Jets. He could very easily be 11 and 5, 9 and 7, 10 and 6, and everything be up for grabs. Let's talk about the NFC side of it real quick. It's, like I mentioned before, the Redskins number 1, the Bears number 2, the Bucks 3, the Seahawks 4, and your wildcard teams are pretty much set in stone with the exception of the 6th seed. The Cowboys are 10 and 3, and the Packers are 9 and 5 at that 6th seed. The closest on the bubble would be the Falcons and the 49ers, both at 7 and 6 apiece. Do you think that the NFC is pretty much set, or do you think Lawyer Killer is going to drop a game or so and make things interesting?
So I think it's actually not Lawyer that's in danger here. It's actually Future and the Seahawks. The Atlanta Falcons are 1 game back on them right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Atlanta Falcons. San Francisco 49ers. Sorry, this is what I was looking at. The San Francisco 49ers are 1 game back on them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Seahawks are currently, as we're talking, losing by 1 point in the 4th quarter against Noel and the Buccaneers. So that, to me, is the closest race, not necessarily the Green Bay Packers. It is Spooky going to catch Future, which usually Future does excellent in the regular season. So him getting potentially knocked out would be extremely surprising. But that's a really good race right now as we come to the end of the season.
And the 49ers play the Packers Week 16, and then the Packers close out against Paulie in the final week. So that'd be kind of, there's a lot of playoff implications with these last 2 weeks with the schedule. And the Seahawks have, like as you mentioned, they're playing the Bucks right now. They have Governor and the Eagles Week 16, and they close against the Jets Week 17. So a lot of things can happen. I typically don't like to pound on my chest, but I'm going to do a little brief segment on the Texans just because, and you're kind of the guy to talk about because we're going to talk about stats. Right now, as it stands, Deshaun Watson is the league's top passer, 36, 70 yards, 40 touchdowns, 37 sacks, and 23 interceptions. And I guess to me what's kind of amazing about that is the fact when I compare myself to you, where you're number 1 with points, number 1 with yards, you're much more balanced on offense. Your running back has 1,300 yards. Your other running back has 300 yards. So you've already got 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. Your quarterback with 3,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 27 interceptions. And then you look at my team. Outside of Watson, you've got a running back by committee. The best is 319 yards. Duke Johnson, 200 yards. And Pumphrey at 184 yards. What do you... I mean, how how can you sustain that kind of success, do you think, passing wise with no running game? And how can I get this going with the running game from when you and I played?
So the biggest transformation I've seen from your end is that you stopped making as many mistakes. I
Yeah.
think you have like 23 interceptions or something like that to this point
Yeah.
of the season, which, I mean, I could be slightly exaggerating here, but I think you hit that number around the halfway point of last season. So just by the virtue of how aggressive your offensive game plan is and not making those mistakes this time around, you're just churning out yards and not giving away drives.
Last year I threw 40 interceptions.
Slight exaggeration.
Yeah, 40 touchdowns and 40 interceptions.
Right.
And also when you compare it to like to the Bucks, another great offense, a guy that's got 1,600 yards between his running backs and 20 touchdowns. So I don't know. I got to figure out the running game. How can I get the running game going?
So the biggest thing that helped me with the running game is anticipating where holes are going to open up, and also understanding what type of scheme you're running. Are you running a power scheme or are you running a zone scheme? I run, other than dives and tosses, pretty much no power runs because I don't have the line for it. And power runs take a lot more anticipation and patience.
Right.
I'm one of the guys that just wants to hit the hole full speed.
Yeah.
And so a zone scheme is going to be better for that. It can manufacture a lot more situations where you're one on one. And then trying to look and see what's going to happen one step ahead of it happening. A lot of guys on like stretches or even inside zone plays, they just try to get outside and run around people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, especially guys that don't have excellent users, will over pursue there, and you just cut up real quick, like the run is actually designed to do, and all of a sudden now you've got huge gains. I don't usually have like big plays. I just get 10-yard chunks, and that's from making one guy miss, and all of a sudden, boom, that's a gain of 10. That's usually what my run game looks like.
When you look at two other teams that are considered the SML top dogs, the Colts, when you look at his stats, not that impressive on offense this year. He was really middle of the road in terms of like points. He's 11th, yards 16th, passing yards 12th, rushing 17th. His defense though, third, first, third, and second. But his passing yards luck 2,800, 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Not a whole lot of mistakes. So obviously he's compared to my 23, 24 interceptions. He's taking care of the ball better. He's got 1,000 yards between his running backs and 9 or 10 touchdowns. How does Prime? Is it just that he plays that good of a defense and cuts down on his mistakes? Is that what it is to be the elite player?
That's what he's doing this season. Traditionally, he's had more weapons on offense as far as the receiver goes. Now, that being said, he's got two great weapons as it is. But he's used to having multiple speed assets and leveraging those, whereas this time he's kind of switched it up. He leans more on the ground game. He's much more patient, and he's letting his defense take care of things. That's kind of the traditional recipe for success in the NFL. You don't see a lot of guys go to that in Madden, but it is tried and true for a reason.
Yeah, and then just to hit the point home about great defense, you look at Oshie, only allowing 10 points a game, 200 total yards, 105 passing yards was first, and it looks like his Achilles heel might be stopping the run because when you throw it, he takes away 2 and 3 reads by himself. His offense, though, his quarterback, 1,700 yards passing, 68% completion, 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 20 sacks.
Yeah, so
Go
if
ahead.
I'm Oshi, my defense for that is that, oh, well, I get all these interceptions, and so I don't get to move the ball downfield as much on offense. The problem with that is that should translate to points then on offense, but he's
Yeah,
21st in points on offense. Like
you're right.
me, I like you said earlier, I have the number one points scored per game at 31. That's not all offense. Like a lot of that is defense and turnovers forced. I have a lot of interceptions, not as many as Oshi does, but I have a lot of them. And that's where that translates. You see here, though, you look at his offensive stats.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure, not being able to score all the time because you get all these interceptions returns takes it away. But even rushing, which is kind of his, bread and butter because
right.
of Cohen, he's only 13th. So you have to ask what's happening there on the offensive side.
I don't know. I don't know if it's because Trubisky's a bad quarterback or if he's just like a lot of the, I'm not going to say elite players, but a lot of the top players that are online that are twitching and everything where the big thing was hashtag YPass and that's kind of Oshie. His user's really good and he likes to burn you with the outside runs and that's kind of how he salts away the victories in my opinion. As it stands right now, go ahead and give me your Super Bowl predictions for this season.
My Super Bowl prediction is going to probably be extremely unsexy, but I'm
Yeah.
kind of a safe and conservative kind of guy. So I think Prime is trying to prove something this year, so he gets there for the AFC. And just based off of what I saw last season, I would like Grams to take it, but I think you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to have Grams and Colts. So Colts and Cowboys in the Super Bowl, and Prime and the Colts over Cowboys.
I've been saying the Colts and Redskins. I'm going to stick with that, and that's kind of a segue for the next thing I want to talk about. What's your opinion on Sunday Squad? Is he as good as his record and everything shows? 13-1, third in points per game with 30, only allowing 11 points per game. Give me your take on the Washington Redskins.
All right. So that's I'm going to say that's a complicated response because if you say, are you surprised that this user is 13-1? Absolutely not. He's absolutely capable of reaching that type of record and performance on his own.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, his play style plays to this type of team that he has perfectly. He plays a very opportunistic style on defense with his user where he tries to take away your first two reads very, very quickly.
Right.
He's very aggressive with that. And because of his pass rushers, he's able to get away with it. You can see sometimes to where he'll over pursue, and if someone does very rarely get enough time, they can beat him over the top. But he kind of knows that that's not likely to happen, and he does a very good job taking advantage of that. That's just him being a good user.
Just
On
between.
offense,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you talk about his pass rush, just between Nawasu and Sweet or Sweat, he has
Sweat.
38 sacks between those two players this season.
He also has Ioannidis, who's an extremely talented interior rusher.
Yeah.
So he's got guys that can get the job done, and he
Yeah.
leverages them very, very well. On offense, his scheme is, I'm going to say, consistent. He mixes it up as far as what exactly is happening, like what
Mm-hmm.
routes he picks, but they all serve the exact same purpose. He's got clear out routes that basically they're just running deep to try to stretch the defense. And if they're there, he'll take them all day, right?
Right.
But that's not really their intended purpose. And then he's got an inside outside leverage combination. So usually it's something like a wheel and a post or a slant. So what he wants is he wants to see, all right, are you going to take away this post? And if you are, well, the wheel's probably open coming up the
Right.
seam. So I'm going to hit that. If you try to take away the wheel, well, that means you just took someone away from the middle of the field. So now that post, slant, in, whatever it is, should be wide the freak open. And if you're able to take away both of those sides, that means you're overcommitting to that side of the field, which means my downfield attack should be open. If not, I can just hit a check down. It's very basic, but it works for a reason. He's very, very good at it. I mean, if it was that easy and that's all you had to do, then everyone would do that type of offense.
Right.
Right. He does an excellent job piloting it. Again, like it doesn't surprise me at all that he's 13-1, but he utilizes those studs that he has on offense and on defense extremely well.
Just looking at, and I guess I just can't get over the fact that you got 2,200 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and you're still, 13-1, like you said, smothering pass rush on defense, a decent running game, and obviously he's taking care of the football. I don't know where all his points are coming from. It must be off of turnovers.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with Oshie. Like, if you have a great defense causing turnovers and causing 3-and-outs, even
Yeah.
you're facing short fields on offense over and over and over and over and over again. You're not allowed to get yards anymore because you don't have a full field to work with, pretty much ever. And again, that's just because he has a very opportunistic defense that makes freaking plays, and a lot of times it's him making the plays, but other times he's got 2 superstar safeties and 1 or 2 superstar corners that will take the ball away.
Let's talk about Raider fan real quick. I'm not going to talk about the conspiracy, but just from what you've seen of his game, the fact that he currently has the league's leading rusher, 1,500 yards, he only has 6 touchdowns with Greer. How can Raider fix his game?
Well, I think what Raider needs to do first right now is he's having an identity crisis.
Yeah.
I think he noticed last season that he was throwing a ton of picks. And so in order to kind of rectify that, he's like, well, screw it. I'm just going to run the ball a bunch.
Right.
And like his running back looks really good for it. And he's getting 6.6 yards per carry, which is pretty good. It's not like he's just grinding it into the ground and not getting anything out of it. But that's not sustainable in and of itself. I mean, I think he's like last in passing or something like that. I'm not sure what his interceptions numbers are. I'm sure they're much lower than before, but so is his passing offense. So he needs to figure out exactly
What he wants
what
to
he
do.
wants to do and how to turn that into other things. Because right now he's just running the ball for the sake of running the ball, I think. I could be wrong. But I think he's just running the ball to run the ball and to not pass. What good running teams need to do is leverage that running game and utilize that to create opportunities in the passing game. Everyone rips on me all the time for all these play action passes.
Right.
I mean, you said it yourself. I have like one of the top rushers in the league.
Yeah.
That's because I like to run the ball. Because I use the run to set up the pass and I use the pass to set up the run. That's what I do. And so those two things work hand in hand for me. They're not just, well, I'm going to run the ball and then I'm going to throw some corner routes because I know corner routes work. That's not how offenses should work. And I'm worried that Raider is just running the ball just to run the ball because it works.
My next opponent is the Jaguars. The Jags were like the sexy pick after last season where they thumped the Colts week 1. This season, much more average, middle of the league. Stalker was insane. This year, not so much. 21 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, 3,000 yards passing. He still has Fournette, or maybe he traded him.
Traded him to Gov.
He did trade him. It's just showing the stats on here. So Gallman's his leading rusher this year with 700 yards. DJ Chark, of course, 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. What happened with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Is it just that he started playing more reckless and was forcing the ball to Chark too much and these interceptions have gone up? Or what exactly happened to Dump this season?
I think it was purely mental. I think he was in a situation to where that game against Prime, they played it really early after the advance. He may not have all been in it or something like that. Something was off. And it just went really, really poorly for him. And unfortunately, I think he allowed that to carry on, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse until now he's starting to get that mojo back a little bit. I played Dump earlier in the season, week like 7 or 8 or something like that, and I beat him only barely still. I would not want to play him right now because I think he's got his mojo back just in time for a potential playoff run.
And not just his stats, you know the stats already. Who's the best offensive player in your mind, the best defensive player, and all around the best player in the SML?
The problem is there's a lot of guys that are good at a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Best defensive player has to go to Oshie. You can talk about how he sits in that cheese dime formation 99% of the time, and then he sits in that 4-6 formation the other 1% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's ebook stuff, but regardless, you can't deny he's by far and away the best user and also still leverages his defensive guys extremely well. He's easily the best defensive player.
Who's the best offensive player?
If you just want to talk all around well-rounded offensive performance, I would probably give that to Grams just off the top of my head. He does a lot of good things in the passing game. He's got a really strong running game at the same time. Gov may be a better passer, but he doesn't run the ball ever. Meats is a really, really good runner. He just doesn't pass the ball as well unless he's throwing streak routes to Hollywood. I feel like I'd give it to Grams.
Just in terms of his balance?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Since you brought up ebooks, that's kind of something I feel that's become more prevalent, not just in SML, but the primer as well. Do you feel that this is becoming more and more of an issue where guys are really trying to get that competitive edge and are starting to rely pretty heavily on YouTube magic?
I mean, I've never seen one before, so this is just all off of a hunch. But based off of the number of people that do not make reads and throw it to very similar routes, like a corner route or an angle route or a wheel route over and over and over and over and over again. Again, no read. Like, that's where they're going the whole time. They're like, this corner fucking works. Let's go.
Yeah. The corner routes are just broken this season.
They really are.
Or this cycle. Everybody knows that.
For sure. And to be honest, I've gotten most of my interceptions off of corner routes because no one makes the read.
Right.
They're just like, this route's broken. Let's go. Yeah. And that's not how you fucking play the game, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, to me, there's a lot of guys that I think need to get checked a little bit in terms of their style of play. It's just, like you said, it's a lot of the same routes you're seeing. It's a lot of guys calling the same plays over and over. And then defensively, you're seeing not necessarily, or basically their nano turbo blitzes, however you want to coin it. A lot of guys have sit in those defense and rode their way to the Super Bowl. And I think certain guys have gotten exposed, and now they're kind of dropping off a little bit, maybe because they're trying to change their style of play, or maybe just because everyone else has now seen the style of play that you have to play to beat those guys. But I don't know. That's kind of disappointing that I've been part of this league for 3 or 4 years, and I think right now we're kind of at the peak of cheese or ebooks, and it's just something I think needs to change, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And hats off to Prime on trying to make a public initiative of getting rid of it. I had conversations with different admins previous seasons, and they said that they were going to say something or that a big push would be made, and I never saw anything of it. And they may have, to in all fairness, to their credit, they may have said things behind closed doors. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but the fact that it's a public campaign does make me feel a little better. It'll be interesting to see if anything comes out of it. I'm hopeful, and I want to see it happen. So I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt to make sure that we kind of move away from this crap, because it really takes away from. Okay, why, if you're going to use ebooks and stuff like that, why are you in a sim league?
You're
There's
not.
so many leagues out there that basically love that type of play. That's all they're about. They're just as competitive as the SML. It's just extremely cheesy. If you're going to play that way, why play in a sim league? There's no point. It drives me crazy. This doesn't make sense to me.
That's why I posted the video that I did a few years ago about not calling the same plays over and over, just because it's something I think is getting quite prevalent and needs to be addressed. So if you are doing it, people are watching your games or stream. People are watching your streams. Guys like me are going back over those streams. We're taking notes about how many times you're calling X, Y, and Z, and I hope it's something that we can rectify going forward. That way, we can keep the fun in it and not be one of those leagues that goes under because we ignored it and guys just wound up saying, fuck it, this is not a sim league, this isn't what we want. I think that's a good way to kill league off. But
Yeah, I agree. I kind of last time I was on here, actually, I compared it to the current politics situation.
yeah,
Everything's populist right now. Now it's even worse because you definitely have Biden looking like he's the leftist, head, and Trump is on the right, and both of those dudes are just populists. Basically, none of their base agrees with what they think, but they try to go toward the middle and the easy way out as much as possible. And that is what the ebook or cheese situation is make everyone feel good, make everyone relaxed, make it easy instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing the right thing, which is going to be a lot more work. It's going to be harder and people may not like it, but that's what you have to do to have a strong foundation and be able to move forward and build up.
I agree. I think that right now we're looking at it from the standpoint of the league's full. We got 2 leagues with 64 guys in it, and we're staying full constantly because we're taking guys and pretty much we're keeping them unless they shake the wrong tree. But it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward. I'm coining myself the comeback player of the year for this time. So if you know someone with these awards, let's get it going. We were a bottom feeder team. We're a team that's hopefully gonna push for that 6th spot. Be interesting to see what happens. I hope you sweep your last 2 games. That would help me out. That would be much appreciated. You got any closing statements?
Just thanks for having me on. Happy Easter, everybody, and down with you.
Happy Easter. He cut out a little bit, but we appreciate you guys taking time. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Check us out, simmadleague.com, daddyleagues.com/SML, daddyleagues.com/SMLP for the primer. We've got all kinds of teams. Make sure that you're tweeting out your tweets. Add us with @simmadleague. That way we can retweet it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.